Welcome to Rambling with Resolveera. This is our second episode, and today we have our guest, Miss Lydie Pierre. And in today's episode, we are going to talk about maternal and child socio emotional bonding. Miss Pierre has an extensive experience in working with families and children, especially parents, children, moms. And currently, she is in a job professional situation where she's extensively working on this particular area, and we have Lydie talking about the challenges, how pandemic has affected the parenting and the child issues. And without wasting further moments, let's have Lydie here with us. Welcome, Lydie. Thanks for joining Rambling with Resolvera. We are so glad that you're actually rambling in your car, right?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So, Lydie, our viewers and listeners would like to know about your job, what you do when you're working with families and children, and how is that job so important? How is your work so important for the community?
Okay. So I am the Healthy Families Program Director in Central Harlem. So our agency is what can I say? It's a huge agency. It's There's 600 locations worldwide. This Our program started in Hawaii and it grew from there. And it's Israel, it's Canada, in the US, and in New York alone, there's about 45 sites. So basically, a long time ago, I used to work with Vero, and we were in the general preventive world. And basically, what that means is we caught things after the fact. So ACS would come into a family's life. They would identify that there was some kind of abuse or neglect, and we would come in and we would try to, help the family so that it wouldn't repeat. That got very sobering very fast, right? Although I was there for a very, very long time. And I just think it was just like I just wanted to do something. I just wanted to help. But something in me said, you got to get in the ground floor before that. And so I was looking for a job and I wanted to be in the maternal health field. And luckily for me, I found this job where it was like we're there before anything ever happens. We're there when women are pregnant and expecting or just had a baby by like the 3 month mark, right? Is pretty much the cutoff for us. And what we do is we try to make sure that that mom bonds immediately from the time the baby is in utero until the child is age 5 and they're school ready. And what drew me to that was like, okay, nothing happened to the child yet. Because the other side, you just heard these horrific stories over and over again. And it's very, taxing on social workers to hear stories like that over and over again. And, as a mom myself, I was like, what can you do to prevent that? Because I knew very early on in my life, like how I wanted to raise my kids, what traumas I didn't want them to experience, what things I didn't want them to grow up with. And so I wanted to prevent that. So having this role is a primary prevention role, which I absolutely love because nothing's happened to these children, and we're getting these parents to deal with the traumas that they're dealing. So what we use ACE scores, which is pretty much um, us doing a survey with the parents. We find out about 10 different areas of trauma in their life and growing up and who nurtured them. One of the things that we found was that um, these moms, whether it was the relationships that they were in, whether it was the the situations that just kind of led them in life, they've experienced different traumas on the scales that we view. We view things like nurturing and bonding with your parents as a child, as you were a child. Drug and alcohol, different things like that. What's the current status and relationship with the partner that you've had this baby with, right? Unfortunately, we've seen a lot of one night stands. We've seen rape. We've seen um moms that have no idea. They've been with their partner for 4 years, have no idea where he lives, have no idea where he works, have no idea who he is. Couldn't give you, sometimes they can't even give you a last name. And you just kind of wonder to yourself, like, what is going on with these women and why are they making these choices? And then they have a hard time bonding with their babies, even in utero. This for me, it's the most exciting time. You have this baby growing in your belly, they're moving around, you should be feeling your stomach and like getting excited, and they're not getting excited. And so that's why we come in to say, no, let's see how we can help you bond from onset. And then, of course, we all know depression sets in for a lot of moms right after they have babies, because that's just something that, a lot of women experience. They call it baby blues, they call it, call it whatever you want to,
Right.
but depression is a major issue for moms. And then when you don't have the support, you don't have the finances, and you don't have the backing that you need, how much harder is it to get through that? And so that's why I got into this field, and that's why I'm excited about what we do, because we're helping these moms from the ground up.
I see. So I understand why this work is important, but for many in the community and um, professionals, as you and I, we know that these challenges exist, right? But then there is another section of the community who we don't expect to know that these challenges are there, because having a child, mom and child bonding, the socio emotional, that relationship that develops from the moment you conceive a child or you're in a relationship and you start thinking of having a child, it's so natural for, for so many of us in the community. This is like, oh no, this doesn't happen, or how is this even possible that something like this is happening, or a mom is not able to bond his with her child, with, a boy or a girl, regardless of the gender. So how does this natural phenomena stand as a challenge? I understand you said the scenarios behind it, the situation that many women go through, but for many this is deemed as a challenge. What do you see as a professional that you can do as an intervention to address this challenge and to spread more awareness, to let the rest of the community know that it is not something to judge a person, it is not something, because most of the time when situations like this happen and then there is a question about a natural phenomena, it is very easy to judge that individual, that you are so and so, it is because of you, you are guilty, you are responsible, and probably that puts the mom, that puts that individual deeper in a situation where she finds it hard to get that bonding, because then she starts to feel that this child is responsible for what I'm going through.
I think everybody has different coping skills. We all have different coping skills, right? If you ask majority of professionals in our field why they're in our field, it's because they went through their own trauma. I remember going through a training where we as professionals had to sit down and we had to go through, like our own ACE scores, and we all scored. And it was just like, wait a minute, why is that happening? And it's because and that's the reason why we're in the helping profession, because we understand, but we have stronger coping skills some way, somehow. It could be religion, it could be just family ties, it could just be like we just found. And I always say family ties in the sense of not relatives, but family, the people that you deem as your family. You just haven't happen to have that great support system. Now you take somebody who has been traumatized by their parents, the people that are supposed to care for them the most in life. Then you couple that with all these other traumas that are happening. And so they don't have proper decision making skills. Then they make poor decisions as an adult due to the poor decisions that were made for them as children. How can you then judge them? Then on top of that, the physiological effects of depression. A lot of moms go through depression after having a baby. It's a normal and natural thing that a lot of women don't seek help for, because like you said, maybe they're shamed for it. But I think the bigger thing that I have seen over the years, what happens with every mom. Everybody's so excited. Oh, you're pregnant. Oh, you're pregnant. They rub your belly. Oh, they're super excited for you. As soon as you have the baby, you don't exist. You, as a mom, you don't exist. The baby is the center of everybody's attention. And so, too many people don't check in on the mom to say, hey, how are you doing? How are you healing? How are you coping? And forget it if you have multiple children, right? You have women who have multiple children. What do? They jump up and they just start running. And it's like, I gotta cook, I gotta clean, there's a healing process that also has to happen for them in terms of their bodies, in terms of their psyche. There's so much that has to happen, but nobody checks in on them. So how could I judge? How could I say something, right?
Correct.
It's interesting because one of the things that I loved about this job, when we took this training, we looked at the different cultures around the world and what they do when a mom first has a baby. There are some cultures you can't even move out your bed for 40 days because everybody comes, they feed you, they take care of you, they take care of your baby, everything. And I was like, oh, wait, I need to change cultures. I need some of that, right? And, but that's not the American culture. The American culture is keep going, keep going. Let's go, let's go. We got to move, we got to move, we got to shake, we got to. And it's like, that's not necessarily how it works. The mom should have a break. They should have a minute. Somebody should check in on them. Somebody should be um, looking after them. It's interesting because in our field, a lot of people don't realize that if a mom, God forbid, passes away by the time she's 42 weeks past having a baby, it's still considered because of childbirth. And a lot of people don't know. I didn't know that even until I came into this particular job. Your body has to heal. And so people need to understand what it is. Bending down to pick something up, it takes a toll on the body, whether you had a natural birth, whether you had a cesarean section, and then the traumas that happen in the ER on top of that. Because especially as Americans, we treat birth as if it's a medical procedure. No, it's a natural phenomenon that women have been doing for centuries. And so it's all how things happen, and I think people just need to stop judging and just kind of listen, because that's the main thing that these women that we interact with, they need people to listen.
So, what is the professional intervention that you mostly provide? When you have somebody walk into your office with, these situations like not just personal but environmental, social aspect of it. They walk into your office, they're depressed, they're going through a phase of guilt, or they're confused, they really don't know what's happening. But in the middle of all this, that relationship is not developing and they're still wondering, I have this little individual in my hand and I don't know what to do with this child. So what's the intervention? How does it work?
So basically, our family, the first step is the assessment, right?
Hmm.
And it's just having somebody sit down and talk to them, and do ask the 10 questions that we have. I say 10 questions is 10 categories, right?
Okay.
And it's about an hour long, hour and a half long conversation, and you will find how therapeutic that time alone is for these families. And we consider that a very separate service, because what it is the doctor that came up with this method, he realized that a lot of people just need to talk. A lot of people hold a lot of secrets, and secrets can kill. And so just being able to talk about the traumas that they experience, or being able to talk about the things that have gone through as children, is so relieving. When the doctor that created this program, he did this in a medical clinic. He did it in a medical setting. And what he did is he just let people talk. He asked them about the 10 areas of their life, and he talked to them. They found less ER visits, less issues with the person health wise, because they were able to talk. So that's the first step, just being able to talk to that person. And we've seen it firsthand. I remember doing the observation of one of my workers, and this mom said, I've never divulged any of this to anybody outside of her partner. And she was just like, wow, like, or we've heard people say how freeing it was just to be able to get all that stuff off their chest, right? So that's the first phase. The second phase, we have our home visitors. And our home visitors, when they go in, they also make their own assessments as well, in addition to, the first one. And what they do is they find out what their goals and the values of that family is, and then they follow the family. I think a lot of other interventions, they have their guide and you follow along with our rubric. Yeah, okay, no, we want to follow the mom, we want to follow the dad, we want to follow the parents. What are your goals? What are your dreams? What is your values? What is it that you do? We're not going in there saying, oh, no, 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 that's bad parenting. We ask questions. We have something called reflective strategies, where we ask a lot of open-ended questions to them, We provide them a lot of positive feedback just to kind of get there. When you're not used to people saying how good you are, you kind of need some of that. But not only that, but also the impact of it. I'll give you an example. So one of the reflective strategies is accentuating the positive. If I say, Vera, you look beautiful today, you'll be like, okay, all right. But if I tell you, oh, the impact of you looking beautiful today is that Savvy is going to look up to you one day and want to look beautiful too, it clicks in your mind like why that is so important. I think
Right.
that people don't understand that a compliment is just a compliment, but the impact statement that goes along with it will make you kind of think. And so, when the reason why we do this is because we're trying to get the brain to trigger and work differently than it was before,
And
right?
it is also so motivational to tell somebody that what you do is going to set an impact on somebody else.
Yes,
So you suddenly realize that I do have a role around here. Whatever my actions do make a difference, no matter how simple and small it can be, but still it does make a difference because probably the individuals that you are referring here might not have, got through that situation or haven't heard those motivational positive statements in a long time.
absolutely. If you think about it, your parents are estranged from each other. Your mom was so busy working or she was abusive, and then you end up with these partners in life that were abusive themselves. And you finally get somebody that says something positive about you. How do you react? How do you take that? And then it becomes natural. It becomes something that is a constant occurrence, right? It's every visit, every time that we see them, that we're putting that into them, right? And then also goal setting. It doesn't seem like it's a big deal, but if I've never been able to reach a goal, and it's because I just don't know how, when we're teaching you how to reach that goal, we actually what your goal is, then we break it down into baby steps. How do you reach that goal, right? And as they're taking those steps, we're celebrating with you. Whoa, you did it! It's great, it's wonderful. And until you accomplish that goal, and then what's your next goal? Let's go. And you think about it. Somebody to do that with you for 5 years, I think the neurons and the synapses in your brains are going to change, and that's the reason behind it. It's because they didn't connect as a child. You if you ever look at a healthy baby brain versus a non-healthy baby brain, it's because everything didn't charge, it didn't connect, it didn't quite happen, and so now you're an adult with things not connecting. So we're hoping that over repetition, 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 that will happen. So we also provide support. We give them referrals. We don't want to do it for them. I've seen a lot of agencies. I worked at a lot of agencies. And I've seen a lot of workers who do they want to be superheroes. They want to help so bad, right? And they want to go out there and they want to save the day and they do everything for the family. And the family was not part of the process. And so they don't value it. They don't value the intervention that you put in place. They don't value the things that you did for them. But when you sit there and you're like, no, here's the information. I want you to go over there and get it. The pride that they have. Oh man, I'll give you the best example I ever had. In our last agency that we worked together, I remember this family. Their apartment was super dark, and we didn't understand why. They were living in an apartment with really high ceilings, and they were just so scared to approach the landlord. We're like, just ask the landlord to change the light bulb. And they were so scared, and we coached them through it. We walked them through it. Sure enough, they asked the landlord, and he changed the light bulbs. The pride that family had. Yeah, I know it sounds so simplistic, but they were living in the dark for a couple of years because they were afraid. They didn't know. Oh, all I have to do is ask. Things that me and you take for granted, you know, other people need to understand. And it was just like, okay, the next time they had an issue, they're like, how do I do it? But then over time, they stopped asking, how do I do it? Because guess what? We didn't do the work for them. They did the work. We just set the foundation. We just helped them
Hmm.
along the way.
Correct.
And I think that's the same thing that we're doing now. We're not going to do it for you. We're going to have you do it so that, especially because if it's not your goal, it's not going to happen. If somebody came to me
Correct.
and said, hey, Liddy, lose weight, that's your issue, not mine, right? Right? Until Lydia's ready, it's not going to happen. So when I am ready, then all of a sudden, hey, take away the junk food, hey, get on an exercise program. It has to be your goal. It has to be something you want. So that's why we take their lead.
Okay. So that's a good segue to our third question because you mentioned that one of the steps is to do the home visits,
Yeah.
right? And to see the family and environment. However, with the current pandemic situation,
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure it must have made a huge impact, a big challenge for the services. And home visits, meeting, allowing people inside your house or seeing people who you don't know whether they have COVID or not, are they vaccinated or not. So, how has the work been affected because of the pandemic the past year and a half? I would say nearly 2 years because,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. We're not in the homes yet, to be honest with you. Everything has been virtual. We have been using WhatsApp and every type of social media in order to meet with the families, just like how we're doing right now. And so it comes with its pluses and its minuses, of course, right? It's easy. I get to see multiple people faster, right? My people don't have to walk up and down the stairs, to multiple places. So I could see people faster. I could service more people in that regard. So that's wonderful. That's great. However, then you have the intrusion of technology, right?
Mm-hmm.
So either your family doesn't have it and then you have to walk them through it or you help them obtain it, or the issues of privacy have gone out the window. Some of these people were, their haven was our office, you know, because when they would come to our office and we would speak to them about certain things, and then at the home we speak to them about other things, right? Just to keep their privacy. So we had like one family in particular. The children are autistic. You have a grandma there, grandpa there. There's so many family members in the house. Where is the space to have privacy to have this phone call? Why do you need that? Now you have the criticism of grandma. Why do you need that? I'm here. You know, all those things become an issue. And then the mom slowly stops wanting to talk to us because it's just like
Mm-hmm.
so many people there judging and, intruding. And then life is happening. People are cooking, people are cleaning. Their house is a mess. I don't want you to
Yeah,
see that.
absolutely.
People didn't
Correct.
even get dressed anymore, right? During the pandemic, people are just now talking. They're even showing commercials now. Ooh, this is what jeans feel like, right? Because people didn't even get dressed. They don't do their hair. They didn't. There was no motivation to get up, right? So that was definitely an impact. And you had those families that were like, when are you coming back to the home? When are you coming? We need you back in the home. And it's like for everybody's safety right now, we haven't quite developed a plan of how to get into people's homes safely, for the workers as well as the individuals that we serve. And I think the major, major impact was on the workers. And I would say the reason why I say that, and I know other people are probably going to frown on me and disagree with me. You as a professional have to work from home now with your children in the house, right? You're not used to that. So here's your kid coming on camera, hey, mommy, 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 trying to get your attention. And yet you're trying to provide privacy to that person. But your privacy is now also being hindered as well. And I think
Correct.
that was a major thing that I know that I'm I don't know how to the advocate for that, but as professionals, the lines have been blurred, because now our children are on camera. Now our children are being, our homes are now part of this. You're used to going into an office, you're used to going to other people's homes. So there's that professional boundary was set,
Mm-hmm.
but now the families are seeing you as friends because they could see your home, they could see your children, they could see, and so it's like, no, that's not what we wanted, But sometimes there's very little you could do at times to prevent that. There are sometimes, yes, you can have a private space, you can be in your car, where you could
Correct.
do that. But depending on what your situation is, I know for me, I have four small children, one on the way. And finding space for, I can't just run into my car to do my work. I have to be in the home to watch my kids while my husband goes to work in a hospital. So it's very difficult. And saying, hey, here you go, sit down and watch TV. Oh, that was another phenomenon. My kids are now addicted to the tablet. Why? Because mommy has to work, so I have to put you on a tablet so you can be quiet for a few minutes. Yeah, yeah, that's
Right.
Play-Doh. Yeah, there's crayons, but there's so much time that they can spend with that if mommy is not present before they come after you, right? And even with the tablets and all that. So I think it was a very blurred line. So for me, I advocate more so for the professionals as opposed to the families. We were already going into families' homes. We already knew what they look like. We already knew the dynamics of the family. We already knew we already they already opened themselves up to that. But I feel like on the other side of it, as people working with these families, where you want to keep clear distinctions with what your relationship is, because families will easily, here's some food, here, come over, and it's like, no, this is not our relationship. Our relationship.
Right. So, like when it was easier to say no and step back when you were visiting home because the lines were still rigid and you're able to set that boundary.
Yeah,
But when you're at home, it's difficult to say no because it's all visible,
yeah,
right? You are visible, your environment is visible, right? Before it was just you who were there and there was nothing belonging to you, right? So now I think, from a professional point of view, I absolutely agree that we have to relearn and reteach ourselves and our colleagues and people that we work with to teach our tongue to say no,
mhm,
because and that's, I think, in our field is very difficult because these are families in need, and probably they, as you said, like they might be hesitating for years, and then this one time they might open up, but they end up in a situation where we are not able to say yes to it and we say no.
yeah,
So there is that, that thin wire, that thin line where you do get an opening, but then there is a danger of shutting down again because professionally, to set the boundary, you have to say no.
yeah. I think that the other thing that I wanted to bring up in regards to that was that how, unfortunately, in our own field, people weren't understanding, right? If you had other professional colleagues who didn't have small children at home, they didn't understand the struggle that you went through, right?
Hmm.
So if their children were college age or they just didn't have anybody at home, they're like, oh, I don't understand why you can't just work 9 to 5. No, I can't work 9 to 5. My kids are home doing remote school. So I have to be the IT guy, the nurse, the school nurse, the janitor. I have to be the cook. I have to be mommy. I have to be a professional. And so I remember, especially when the pandemic first hit, I used to work between the hours of two, from the time that my children went to sleep to about 2 or 4 o'clock in the morning, rinse and repeat. And so, how taxing that was on my body. And social workers alone, a lot of people don't realize, is the second most traumatizing fields to work in. So not only are you in a very traumatizing field working with very vulnerable people, but then now you're put in a vulnerable situation. Lack of sleep, lack of privacy, and lack of understanding. And so that I could go on for days about, because you had colleagues who were like, oh, your children shouldn't be on camera. Well, there's nothing I could do about this 2-year-old that's going to come on camera, And it's just like, if you're an empty nester, you don't understand. And I found so many didn't want to understand either, because they found that the families that we serve were the most vulnerable. But I found that the workers were more vulnerable because they were at a breaking point where it was like, keep going, keep going. They need your help more than anybody else. And it was, so basically you were being told, don't pay attention to your own family. Pay attention to your the people that you work with.
The workload, pay attention to the caseload, the workload, but
Right.
don't pay attention. And the last episode of Resolveera, actually, I had a professional from India, and we were talking exactly about how self-care has been lacking, how the boundaries have been blurred, and how they can seek help, because she works with telemental health, and it's easier, to sit in the corner of your room or couch and communicate with somebody to seek help regarding self-care, because we all, globally, we reached a stage where it was kind of, blowing our minds off, and we really didn't know what to do. And
Right.
the whole idea behind Rambling with Resolveera is actually to bring in professionals from around the world, and have them communicate and talk about this global anxiety, this need of mental health and self care and positive vibe. Because the last 2 years, we have been seeing so much of negativity and so much of stress and anger and frustration that it has become, like personally, I started thinking that it needs that stage. We need to come and communicate and talk about it, because we are all aware about it, we all know it, yet we are in a stage where we just don't want to see it. But it's this huge monster standing in front of us. We cannot just pass by without acknowledging it or without doing anything about it.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
this leads to our next question, where I understand that you and your agency is working with families, obviously, who are already enrolled and who are already getting the services. The pandemic hit, but still you were able to reach out to them through technology. Yes, amongst all the crisis on either side of the river, but this river was still flowing, right? There were still resources for people who knew that here is this and I can get services from here. But there are many more families who are in crisis, or probably who went into crisis because of the pandemic. The abuse increased, the domestic violence increased, the crisis of neglect and ignorance and guilt increased, and depression increased. So there are families, there are parents, there are moms and kids who are going through this crisis. How do they reach out to you? If somebody is asking for help, if there are families in crisis, how do they know that, do I need to call Lydie or somebody else or the agency? What's the process of reaching out? And this is specifically for our viewers and followers and listeners, because there are many people who would be listening to this or watching this on YouTube. um, and if they are in need, how do they
Yeah.
reach out?
I think that first we try to reach out to them. We hopefully find them, right? As opposed to them finding us. But if they are looking for us, they would just look for home visiting programs such as ours, and because ours is not just the only one. And I think that is a natural phenomenon that I've been seeing, especially in the Harlem area where I work. A lot of agencies are there, and nobody know they exist, which is another phenomenon in itself, right? Um, so, but they can reach out in terms of just looking up one of the home visiting programs online, just reaching out to us, and we would just do the assessment right then and there. We typically go out into the community and look for families and ask them those questions. Hey, would you like some assistance with your child? Hey, we try to go to hospitals. Some hospitals are more receptive than others. We try to go to WIC centers. We try to just walk around the streets of Harlem and try to find people. We anything and everything. We try to get OB's attention because they're working with the moms, midwives, doulas, anybody and everybody. We're also doing a lot of workshops, a lot of Zoom workshops, but they're workshops nonetheless. So we're
Understood.
trying to do a lot of workshops on breastfeeding, on childbirth education, on advocacy, all those different things, so that we just let the community know, like, look, there's services, there's help for the very things that you're dealing with right now. A lot of the social workers in the hospitals, we tried to reach out to them and coordinate with them as well. So we're accessible, we're here, but it's just I think that's the burning question. It's funny because as much as I can say that, we're still struggling to find out how to get the word out that that agencies like mine exist. There's so many different great agencies that I know of that are doing such great work, but people don't know we exist. So we're doing a lot of street outreach. We're just going out, handing out flyers, telling people about ourselves. We're going to other professionals like, hey, do you know we exist? Can you make referrals to our program? But it is a struggle trying to get people to know that these agencies are here and have resources. We, of course, get inundated with emails, right? And we're like, send this to your clients, send this to your families. We call them participants. Send this to the participants that you have in the program. And hopefully they spread the word to their family members and to other people, their friends and families that they know. And so that's how we try to spread the word. But the resources are there. It's just a matter of who has access. And unfortunately, sometimes it stays with us, and so that's a bigger problem in itself too.
So one thing I can assure you that through Resolveera's rambling with this episode, it's definitely spreading the word around and we talk about it. But is there like a website or something for, say, agencies if they are looking up for programs like you? If it is possible, can you provide a link to a website, like just say it out so that we can also post it in our YouTube episode with this interview and people can reach out to you?
So my particular agency is N as in Mary. Oh, sorry, forgive me. N as in Nancy, M as in Mary, P as in Peter, P as in Peter, cares.org. So that's Northern Manhattan Perinatal Partnership. So they can reach out to that website to get to our program with it, which is the Healthy Families program. We also have the Healthy Start and a Mitch program. We have different home visiting programs. We don't have one. We have about three, and a Head Start
Okay.
program. So they could always reach out to us that way. Um, or they could email me at liddy.pierre at nmppcares.org. Or
So
they could
it's
reach out to me.
basically, I'm sorry, so it's basically
Hmm.
nmppcares.org.
Yeah.
Okay, so I repeated that deliberately so that, when we are putting it in, my AV manager who actually works with the video and everything, she can actually put it up. And it is good for, agencies because there are social workers out there who might be looking, for services like you. And if they're watching this or if they're listening to this, they can actually, get in touch with you. And this is such a great program because three different kinds of home visit programs and working with families who are going through this crisis, and this is not a much spoken issue. We sometimes are aware about it, but it is so important.
Hmm. I agree.
Yep. So Lily, as we are moving on, I understand you've been in the field for some time now and you have seen, like, the negatives and positives, and you have seen how transformation happens, how things change. And you have seen, the investigation part, how it starts when we were in the preventive, thinking about, all the challenges that we faced as not just professionals, but also working with families and advocating for those families, right? So I would like to know that there must be a lot of pieces of advice that comes out, from the professional aspect, from the personal aspect. And I think as we are now wrapping up our interview today, our episode today, what piece of advice comes to your mind when you like think back, when you think about your work? What do you think that you can share with the listeners, with the viewers and the followers, um, about this work, and basically your piece of advice for the listeners?
Oh, that's a good one.
I
I
think
would I would say I would say that my piece of advice is to listen to people, right? As simplistic as that sounds, what I found in, people, everybody's quick to give advice. That's the easy part. But how many people are quick to listen, right? You got to be slow to speak and quick to listen. And I think that's a major thing because so many people they would divulge. It's just that we're so busy giving advice that you cut them off when they were just about to say something, and it's like, and the cat catches their tongue, and they never say what they get to say, and that's a lot of the reason why people don't get the help. Because again, what going back to when we were talking about being people being judgmental, right? And so it's like people are gonna judge me, people are gonna say something, and it's because everybody's always talking, talking, talking. I feel like social media has provided everybody platform. I need to say something, so I should say it. Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. Yes, we all should have a voice. I absolutely agree with that. But when does your voice stop to actually listen to the people around you? Some people are hurting. And if you took the time to listen, you would hear and go, oh, okay. But not just listen, do something. I it's funny. I have to quote the MTA. See something, say something. I think that is one of the most powerful campaigns ever. And it's because so many people will see something and not intervene. It's like, oh, that's happening over there. Okay. Right. And they won't take action. And I think that in the simplest way you could take action, but still protect yourself. I'm not saying go in there and save the day. It's crazy. Just a few days ago, we were at the amusement park, and you there was clear domestic violence happening at the amusement park. I'm with my kids and I'm freaking out. I'm like, we gotta call the police. We gotta call the police, right? And luckily, security was able to kind of intervene. I was like, yes, that's all it takes. Even if you just went to the security guard and said, hey, by the way, can you go follow that couple right there? Something is going on. Say something to somebody. You see somebody that's depressed, and they're alone. Hey, do you need some assistance? Um, and get them that assistance. Even if you don't know the right resource, everybody knows somebody in some kind of a field, some kind of professional setting, and then that person hopefully will be able to, we get the linkages. Don't just watch a train wreck. Don't, just don't be a bystander. uh get involved. That's my main thing. I would say get involved. You see a mom struggling to get up the subway stairs. What do? We run and we help them with the stroller, right? It's the same concept. You see a mom that's depressed and home alone. Hey, you need some support, and try to reach out and find that support to assist them. So I think listening and doing are huge. And the smallest gestures could make such a difference in somebody's life. I
Absolutely.
think that people think that you just have to have this, like I said, everybody always has that cape, right? They want da, 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 they want to come in, save the day, fix all the person's problems. I'm not asking for all of that. I'm just link that person to somebody else that can assist. And I think that that would make such a difference in people's lives because people want to be heard. It's just there's nobody around to hear, and if
Correct.
there was more people listening, we would get a lot further. We get a lot.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Lydie. And every answer, every question, every advice, it really resonates, your passion towards the work. And I'm pretty sure a lot of families are being helped and will be helped with the information that you shared today. I'm so glad that you came. I know you're very busy, and congratulations.
Thank
You're
you.
expecting. And I just hope that everything goes fine, the pandemic, eventually goes down, and the families are, like, helped the way they should be. um, I would definitely, be in touch with you, because this is not the only episode we will have with you. We already have, a relationship as colleagues from at least a decade now. And I look forward, to get more information, because Rambling with Resolvera is a stage where we are not just focusing on the professionals, but we are also focusing about specific topics. Like today, we focused on a specific topic. So, like that, we will be picking out topics and bringing in more and more professionals from around the world. And this is not the first and the last one with you. So, watch out. We will be calling you again and might be, asking you to stop driving and all right. Thank you so much, Lydie. We'll have you, again, and good luck with everything.
Thank you so much, Vera. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.